Well, hello there. I don't know if anybody's actually watching this right now, but yeah, my name is Halliday, and basically I just kind of wanted to show you a day in the life. Well, not a full day, but a little while in the life of me. Um, so I do spend a lot of time knitting. I got my kitties. Um, Hi there. How's it going? So yeah, right now I'm working on a project that uses a technique called double knitting. And as you can see, you have a pattern on one side, and on the other side you have the reverse colors of the same pattern. And so there's no back, there's no front, there's just two sides that are opposite one another in terms of colors. So this is my first YouNow. I've used various streaming applications before, but this is the first time I've actually used this particular program, so I'm not entirely sure what the differences are between this and some of the other programs that I've used, but I will figure it out as time goes on, so bear with me a little bit. Hi everybody! How are you guys doing? Talk to me. Tell me what's going on in your life. I love to hear about what's going on in other people's lives and what's happening around the world and so forth. I'm doing good. I'm just kind of relaxing, and I was watching some of the old original Star Trek. But really mostly just kind of working on my knitting right now. So this right here that I'm working on is a baby blanket for a friend's sister. And she actually had the baby a little while ago, and this was supposed to be done, and I'm still working on it. So I've made quite a bit of progress, as you can see. It's getting there. It's not quite there yet. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks I can get this all finished up and ready before the little one grows up too big. Alright, so this is the blanket so far. So it's gray and lime green, and as you can see, it's a technique called double knitting. So one side, gray is the base color and the stars are green, and on the other side you have the reverse, where the stars are gray and the base color is green. And it took me a little while to figure out how to get this technique to work quickly. It was very, very, very time consuming at first, but I figured out how to be able to hold both strands at once, do a quick flip of colors, and actually, I don't know how many of you use YouTube, but I do have a Learn to Knit tutorial series that's up there, and my next video that I'm working on for that series is double knitting and how you can do that. It's a technique that actually intimidates a lot of people, but once you get the hang of it, it's really fun, and you can do some really cool stuff. Like, you just get out some graph paper or something like that, draw a design, and it just, any design that you want to make, and it's double-sided. So it can be really cool for people who design their own patterns like I do, because it's so quick to draw new sketches and get everything working the way you want it to. You can even do it as like a it's almost like working with pixels. I do a lot of graphic design and web design as well. So if you think about each stitch as a pixel, then you can kind of just do up a quick two-color image and just have each pixel be a stitch. And in that way you can make some really cool and incredibly complicated designs and not have a back to your work. When you have a back to your work, it doesn't look quite as professional, I guess I would say, because you can like see where all the different threads were like carried over, and I mean, this is nice because it's reversible, which is great for scarves and blankets and all kinds of stuff like that. Say you're doing like a sweater or something, it doesn't really matter if the inside looks different, but it's still pretty cool to be able to have something that's reversible. So I am loving this technique. The only thing is I am working with a sport weight yarn and 00 needles, which are tiny. You can see like how tiny these needles are and how tiny my stitches are if you look close. Everybody who sees this in person just tells me it looks like it was made by a machine. And hey, maybe it was. Maybe I'm really a robot or something. But yes, I am a master level knitter, and I do also crochet as well. It's a lot of fun. At this point, I really don't buy anything unless I've tried and failed to make it myself. And it saves a lot of money and you can actually make money too. I do sell some of the patterns that I design online on Ravelry.com. And it's a good source of income because I make something once and then I just kind of put up the pattern for it. I put that up for sale, and then anytime somebody sees it and thinks it's interesting or fun or what have you, then they can go and buy it, and it's no extra work for me for each time somebody wants to buy something. So even though I am a very fast and very skilled knitter compared to most, it's a heck of a lot less work to just do the pattern. Because say for example, one of my best sellers is a sweater that I learned to make. I kind of taught myself how to do it and design the pattern from scratch, and I really wish I had one in the room here that I could show you. So I made the pattern, and I got people all over the world asking me, make me one, make me one, make me one, make me one. And each sweater takes 3 weeks to a month to make. And so it just became absolutely ridiculous trying to keep up with the demand. And so being able to sell the pattern to other people so that they could make it themselves was huge. And so I get about, I think that particular pattern is selling for $10 right now. It might be on sale. I think it's $7 right now. But being able to sell the pattern greatly reduces my workload, and I still get a bit of income too. So it's a skill that I really, really enjoy having. The other thing that's cool about it is I do like to think about it as a post-apocalyptic skill. I can make clothing, I can make blankets, I can make any kind of textiles that you need just from string. I've even made something called plarn, which is basically you take recyclable plastic bags and you cut them up in a special way and lace them together so that it becomes workable like yarn. And you can see like a lot of feel-good stories about groups that get together and make like sleeping pads for the homeless and so forth out of plarn, because it's a waterproof material. It's made from an upcycled material. It's environmentally friendly and so forth, and it's really just, it's great. It reduces litter. It's great for the environment to be able to reuse those bags for something, rather than just letting them decay in the landfill. And it's also pretty expensive to have them recycled. Recycling is a great process, but it's not necessarily an easy process. Hey Marina, I am talking about my knitting right now. And this is a double knit baby blanket that I'm making for a friend's sister. So yeah, what was I talking? Oh yeah, I was talking about Clarn. So yeah, recycling is a great process. It's, it makes the world a better place and all that, and a healthier place. But it's also an expensive and time-consuming process, and you don't get out of it, like, say, you don't get the same output as you do input. So, like, for example, when you see recycled paper, it's not that clean, bleached, white paper that you see that's fresh. It's, more like the craft paper, or there's some level of discoloration to it, or what have you. A lot of the time it's dyed green or something like that. And so using Clarn and being able to upcycle something so directly is a huge benefit. And it's a great material too. It's pretty easy to make. I do have a video on YouTube about how to make it in two different ways. One that has even less waste than the second one. And so, I mean, you can make reusable shopping bags out of it. I've seen a lot of posts lately about groups that are making, like I said, the sleeping mats for the homeless. I mean, I've also made, like, flower pots and stuff like that. So I've grown flowers and herbs out of old plastic bags, essentially. And because it's a much thicker material than the original plastic, you don't get the same ripping, you don't get the same gradual thinning and wear and decay that you do with just a straight up plastic bag that you'd be using over and over. It's much sturdier. So, I mean, you take, like, what is it, like, I don't know, probably around 20 plastic bags, and you can make them into one big reusable shopping bag. And you've not only reduced litter, you've not only reduced the processing for recycling, but you have a new handy dandy little item. And so that's a lot of fun. But yeah, I do consider it a post-apocalyptic skill because it's something that's, really, really necessary. I can also sew, and like I said, I crochet as well. So really anything with textiles, any kind of fiber art, I have played with, I enjoy, and some I'm better at than others. I'm a much better knitter than I am at sewing. When it comes to, like, jewelry making, I'm much better at, like, bead weaving than I am at, say, wire wrapping or something like that. I just haven't played with that as much. So yeah, this is pretty much what I do all day. I make things. I make textiles. I make do web development and graphic design as well, that I was talking about a little bit. When I'm not making things, I'm, playing around. I just, for the first time, the night before last, I played Civilization Beyond Earth. I downloaded it like 6 months ago from Steam, and things just kind of got really hectic in my life for a while, so I forgot that I even had it. Sat down and looked at the clock, and it was 3 hours later. I just completely lost 3 hours, just got completely into the game. It was ridiculously good. So if you haven't played the new Civilization, I highly recommend it. Really, if you haven't played any Civilization, definitely sit down and download it right now. Like if you haven't played Civilization, stop watching and you can go download it. If you like real-time strategy games, it is fantastic. It is top of the line. Like, I grew up playing Age of Empires, Titan Quest, like all those kinds, and Civilization is by far my favorite real-time strategy. But yeah, so tell me about you guys. Tell me what you enjoy doing. Yes, I am good at knitting. I am a master level knitter. There is no knitting technique that I have not played with and been able to successfully complete at this point. Um, so yeah, I'm definitely a good knitter. I have given presentations at knitting clubs where I've actually gotten paid a fair bit. I have given knitting lessons to many people. Like I said, I do have a Learn to Knit tutorial series on YouTube. So that's available for free. I do really prefer sitting down with people and teaching them how to knit or crochet, because you can see where they're struggling rather than them just trying to look at your hands and figure out what's wrong. You can actually sit, and it's much more interactive, of course. So that's really the best way to learn, is with somebody who knows what they're doing. But I guess that's really true with any skill. I mean, most skills you can pick up off of YouTube in this day and age, or you can, learn them online somehow. But being able to sit down with someone who can actually watch where you're struggling and figure it out for you, rather than you having to sit down and say, okay, what am I doing wrong? It's so beneficial. Yeah, I have been working on this for a few months now, on and off. Let me see if I can find the name of the designer who did this, because this one's not my pattern. It's being created from a pattern that somebody else wrote. So if I go to Ravelry, alright, so this pattern is called Octave or Octavie. That's the full name, Octave or Octavie, by I'm a Whale, I'm a Whale. So it's a lot of fun. Just double knitting in general is just so much fun. This one is a very intense pattern. Like I was saying earlier, I'm using 00 needles. These are pretty darn small. If you didn't see before, this is how small my needles are. This is how small my stitches are. But yeah, I'm really enjoying doing it. The only thing is, because it's taking so long, I keep coming up with new ideas of things that I want to knit or crochet. And so they all go on my list, and my list keeps getting longer and longer and longer because I haven't finished this yet. So every time I think of something else that I want to make, I just kind of pick this up and go a little bit faster and a little bit faster and a little bit faster, just so I can get to the stuff that I want to make as well. Because I've been working on this for so long. I mean, it's a really fun project, but it is starting to get a little boring because it's the same design over and over and over. There's one pattern that I want to make that's like this really super detailed skull and crossbones that I'm going to make on like a full-size blanket, but yeah, so I want to make that, but it's so detailed. Like the skull's kind of like turned over to the side, and you can see like it's like a little bit cracked, and you can see like all the little tiny bones and sutures and so forth that are in there, and it's fantastic, and I really want to play around with that design. but I have to finish this first. Yeah, if any of you do knit or crochet, check out Ravelry.com, RAVELRY.com. It is fantastic. It has thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of patterns. Many of them are free, actually. And you can do so many things. You can set up a queue. You can of like which projects you want to make when. You can keep track of really everything that you make, and your progress on it, and when you started, when you finished, who's it for, what kind of yarn did you use, which needles did you use. Really, any notes that you would want to put in there, there's a slot to put it in. And I am obsessed with this site. I spend way too much time on Ravelry. Even when I'm not looking for new projects, I always end up finding new projects on there. And yeah. And so like I was saying, I also do some graphic design. So being able to create images that I want to put onto, say, blankets or sweaters or scarves or what have you, but being able to sit down and create an image that gets knit into a larger project is really, really satisfying. Just being able to sit down, make something that looks really cool, and then have it in a wearable garment is a lot of fun. I mean, for very similar reasons. I do have a cafe press, I do use Printful and so forth. But when you sit down and you can actually like create the whole garment from scratch, it just gives you so much more control over the end product. I mean, that sounds a little bit obvious, but you can get so customized. You can do so many different crazy things, like, you know, lace work to asymmetrical designs to custom necklines to, I mean, really, you name it. You can really make anything once you learn kind of the basics of pattern design. All you have to do is figure out which size needle you're using, what the gauge is for those needles. Gauge is how many stitches and how many rows of stitches you have in a certain amount of space. So like this, I probably have like 8 stitches per inch, and yeah, so about 8 stitches, 8 rows per inch, I would estimate. Maybe a little bit more. Hi there, how's it going? But yeah, so this is a really, really tight gauge because I'm using such small needles. But every different style is going to give you a slightly different gauge. And once you figure that out, you just kind of take some measurements of your own body, of the other person's body, whoever the end product is for. You take those measurements and then you just start making. And I mean, once you have those design concepts down, it's really, the sky's the limit. The sky is the absolute limit. So, for example, I've made like the Doctor Who fez. I've made, you know, basic things like sweaters and cardigans, and I've made socks and gloves, fingerless gloves, scarves. I've even made things like flower pots and pencil holders, and I mean, the list just goes on and on and on and on and on. Coasters. I mean, it's so much fun, and just being able to sit down and start with this and end up with a real usable product or item or what have you it's fascinating to watch the process, to be perfectly honest. Even though I'm the one doing it, I just love watching as things go along. And I take a lot of notes and pictures along the way just to remember. I do actually have a Learn to Knit video series on YouTube. My next technique is the double knitting. So this that I have here, where you have the two different sides that are kind of a reflection of each other, just the opposite colors. Yeah, if you look for Halliday Nelson on YouTube, you will find me. You will find a whole bunch of knitting stuff. There's also some videos of me doing my poetry. There's a video of me doing a song as a performance, actually. There's only one song up there, but there's quite a few poems. Most of what's on my YouTube is really just me talking into the camera about what's going on in my life. There are also, there's also, my most recent video was actually from, it's probably almost a year ago now on YouTube. But it's a speech that I did for a knitting organization about how to market yourself and promote your own products. And it was actually a lot of fun, just being, there was also a pattern writing section. The name is Halliday Nelson. It's the same name as here on YouNow. Yeah. Yep, so if you search me on YouTube, you'll find a whole bunch of knitting tutorials, as well as my poetry and video diary, I guess you would call it. Yeah, I am a writer as well. I have published, like 17 poems, maybe more. I used to do a lot of performance poetry as well. I'm working on a couple different novels right now. I have even more that I came up with ideas for and kind of started and then put on the back burner. But yeah, so a lot of the video diary talks about where I am in the editing phase. Yeah, so I mean, if anybody is looking to learn how to knit, definitely do check out my Learn to Knit series. And if there are any certain techniques that aren't on there yet, like I said, I'm working on the double knitting video now. But if there are any specific techniques that you guys want to see, just, shoot me a line, let me know, and I will definitely get around to them. I love sharing these skills with people. I think that it's a skill that not as many people have today. I mean, whether it's sewing, knitting, weaving, crochet, you name it, it's all kind of done by machines for the most part now, and it's a very relaxing and meditative art. And as you can see, it's something that you can multitask while you're doing. So no, I couldn't sit down and browse the internet at the same time, but I can easily carry on a conversation. As I work with this, I can easily sit and watch my Star Trek or what have you, and enjoy that while I'm doing this. Okay, this is I have so many empty cans up here. I need to figure out which one is the going one. So I'm a little bit of a seltzer at it. currently have three empty cans next to me, and a currently open one, and one that is yet to be open. I drank way too much seltzer. But I do also drink a lot of water. Water is important. Drink a whole bunch of water every day. Yep, come on in.
How you doing?
Doing alright.
Good. Did you make calls?
I don't know which calls